I'm Pastor Mark Don. Welcome back to Discipleship Huddle. You've made it to week 2. Now again, just to review, the word huddle might sound a little weird to you when you're thinking I'm coming to a Bible study, but a huddle is exactly what you think it is, and it will increase from this point going forward, right? A huddle is an action-oriented thing, right? What's going on in the game? What's the next play and break? And we're doing that more now. With God's word in hand, hearing from Jesus, the red letters, we're saying, what's God saying? And now, day by day, what's he inviting me to do about it? And break. That's what we're doing as we start today on week 2 of the Red Letter Challenge. And we kind of had a warm-up week last week, right? With just learning the 5 targets of the overviews. And now, for the next 5 weeks, we will walk in and live our lives based on those 3 things. But as we head into it, let's do this as we start. Go ahead and share just some of your highs and lows from the last week. Celebrate a win that you had in the Red Letter Challenge, right? It might just be, look, I found time. I got through all 5 readings or something that you learned. And then share a struggle. And since God can work through either wins or struggles, maybe take a moment and reflect, what did God reveal to you this week? Take a few minutes as you just kind of warm up and review your readings over the last week. Welcome back. Now, this week we're going into specifically being. That is, being with God, abiding Him, all the ways that Jesus in the gospel says, rest in me, remain in me, abide in my word, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. And as we're talking about tuning in to something bigger than us, let's warm up more with this question. What is the most inconvenient time your cell phone died? I'll share a little bit story as we start with that. It's actually a story of a friend of mine. In East Texas, I worked with a younger lady coworker, and she almost always used to navigate using her phone. She was not good with maps. Well, if you've been in portions of Texas, you know that there are many places where there is no coverage. She was navigating from East Texas down to Houston in deep East Texas, and she had a spot where her cell phone no longer had reception. She ended up in Louisiana. It did not go well, but that's our story. That's my story. How about you? Share, what is the most inconvenient time your cell phone died? Take a couple minutes and share those stories. Part of the reason we talk about that connection with cell phones isn't because we're talking about cell phones today, but that you and I would be tapped into something bigger, higher than ourselves, and that we would be with our God. Here's a video from Pastor Zach Zender about what it means and the significance of resting, abiding with, being with God.
So in this 40-day challenge, Jesus is going to ask us to do a lot of things, and we're going to be excited to do them. He's going to ask us to receive His forgiveness and to give that forgiveness away to others. We're going to be serving our neighbors and our communities. We're going to be generous towards those around us, and we're going to go and be His witnesses in the world. So we got a lot to do, but before we do any of that, we need to understand something first. It's very important that you understand this, is that what we do flows out of our being with Christ. You see, before Jesus ever asks us to do anything, He invites us into a relationship with Him. And that time we spend in relationship with Him is really important because that impacts what we do for Him. There's a lot of people that are followers of Jesus that get frustrated with themselves, and you might say something like, man, I wish I was more loving, or I wish I was more kind or more generous. And people think they have a doing problem, and so when they say that, it's almost like I'm going to grit my teeth together, I'm going to be more loving, and I'm going to forgive more. But Jesus doesn't ask us to grit our teeth together and pull us up on our bootstraps and try harder. What He asks us is to be with Him. Many of us don't have a doing problem, we have a being problem. So today I'm out on a golf course, and I believe golf's going to teach us a lot about what it means to be with Christ. So I'm going to play, I got a par 4 here, I got a good round going, and I'm going to play it in, and you're going to see just how good of a golfer I am, which is a little bit scary for me. Oh, baby. That's beautiful. So golf is my favorite sport in the world to play, but it's probably the most frustrating sport ever. And what's frustrating to me is I can usually walk into most other sports and almost off the bat be decent, but man, I've tried to be great at golf for more than 20 years, and I couldn't figure out why I can't get over the hump until my kids started playing golf this summer. You see, there was a golf course that had free clinics all summer long, and it was the first summer my kids started playing. They're 9 and 6, and so it was really fun getting to see them learn the game. And so at this clinic on Sundays, there would be free practice. So it was stations. And so if you know golf, you'd hit your drivers and you'd hit your irons and you'd spend time in the sand and working on your sand game, and you'd chipping and putting and all of it. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they'd actually let the kids play the course. And my kids didn't actually like Sundays, but they loved going to play the course. And I'm wired the same way. I never wanted to practice. I just wanted to get out on the course and play, and I thought that'll be my practice out there. But what happens is, yeah, I can have some good shots here and there, but my game is wildly inconsistent because I didn't spend enough time practicing like I should have. So Gary Player, one of golf's all-time greats, once said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And we know, of course, the more we practice things, just the better we get. And so if I really want to be great at golf, I need to spend time practicing. I need to be on the driving range. I need to be putting on the green. I need to be chipping around the green and the sand with the bunker shots. I just have to do those things if I want to be great. And the reality is, I truly believe the more I practice at this game, the more enjoyable the game will actually be on the course. And I think the same is true when it comes to us and our relationship with God, and especially in this Red Letter Challenge, that the more we spend time with Christ and be with Him, the more enjoyable the things we do for Him will be. And Jesus talks to His disciples, much like golf, how there's many facets of the game. Jesus gives His disciples many different ways in which we can be with Him, in which we can connect with Him. And we call these things spiritual disciplines. So Jesus talks a lot about these disciplines, and He tells us different ways that we can connect with Him and be with Him. And so in this first full week of the Red Letter Challenge, days 6 through 12, we're going to see that Jesus asks His followers to abide in His Word. And so we're going to spend time in God's Word, in the Holy Bible, and learn more about who He is and the story of what He's done for us. And He tells His disciples to pray earnestly. And so we're going to learn that prayer can be a conversation between us and God, and it can actually refresh us. We're going to talk about resting in Him and what it means to fast and what it means to take a Sabbath. And all of these principles All of these things are disciplines for us to connect greater with the God that made us. And so I'm gonna try to make my 30-foot birdie putt here, and let's just see what happens. Oh, nice! You see, really being the best follower of Jesus that we want to be is a combination of both being and doing. And after all that Jesus has done for me, I want to represent him well. I want to do the best that I can. And so that's why this Red Letter Challenge exists. And what I want to tell you is you can't be a great disciple of Jesus without knowing who he is and without spending time with him. And I think the spiritual disciplines for us are the same way. We can go out and try to do great things for Christ, and we probably will. But if we don't have that foundation and that relationship with Jesus, we'll quickly burn out. And I think the spiritual disciplines are those things that give us the fuel and give us the energy to do what Christ asks. So when we spend time in his word, we learn more about what Jesus has done and how amazing he is. And when I spend time praying with him, I experience this peace from God that passes all human understanding. And when I rest in him and when I fast from things in this world, man, I'm reminded that God is my provider. When I do all of these things, I'm fueled up and I have the energy to actually do what Jesus calls us to do. And so I really hope you spend some really great time being with Jesus this week, learning who he is, experiencing what he's done for you. And I truly believe that'll change you.
Welcome back. Hopefully, either at the beginning or right now, your leader has handed out the handout for today, where especially we turn our attention to God's Word and the reading on the front of it. Our reading for today comes from the book of Daniel. Now, Daniel's an Old Testament prophet, or a minor prophet book in the Old Testament, and perhaps most notably, you know him from the story of Daniel in the lion's den. This is the reading that comes immediately before that says, how did Daniel get to the lion's den? This is a time in Israel's history where they were captive, where they were conquered by the Babylonians. Now, what the Babylonians did when they captured a people, they would take them into exile, especially they would take the cream of the crop. The best and brightest, the most beautiful, most talented, the young people they would take to Babylon. Daniel was one of those young people. In about the year 1605, a very young person, so he had to factor in, how do I live and keep my identity in a foreign land? How do I abide in my identity as a child of God? God blessed him in this time. He rose to a position of prominence, of power, and he was trusted by the highest officials. But this did not necessarily go well. You can imagine there's young people from all different kingdoms, and some who were native Babylonians, who are always the times of intrigue and competition. And that's the story we come to today, where Daniel was conquered. Keep that where Daniel was trapped in his words and his habits of abiding with God. Now, we will then go forward this week saying, how do we abide in our God and his truth? And Pastor Zach talked about spiritual disciplines. These are the 7 spiritual disciplines that will actually be part of your day-by-day challenges this week, right? Instead of just reading, we're going to put it into practice this week, and the pace speeds up just a little bit. So, look and keep each one of these things in mind as you go through your readings, have your questions, and I pray God's blessings upon you and your discussion now and your habits through this week.